The truth was that the breakup devastated me because I had no intention of marrying Patrick. I decided during our short relationship that he might be an alternative to everything I didn't want. As I entered my 30s, I was surrounded by peers who were either married or looking to be, but I didn't see myself on that path. I couldn't imagine living with anyone besides friends, and I had no desire to have kids. Maybe it had something to do with my mom, who gave up a piano performance career to marry my dad, only to get a divorce. She always said she loved raising my sister and me, and that on most days teaching piano lessons in our living room was a more rewarding use of her Juilliard degrees. But I couldn't imagine making those sacrifices for a relationship. I liked putting work first, and I loved my freedom. But that didn't mean I wanted to be alone. Patrick, a Massachusetts-bred sports fan who worked in the paper's advertising department, was 37 when we met, and seemed to share my lack of interest in marriage and kids. He'd managed to avoid marrying 2 decades worth of girlfriends, and still lived in a Brookline condo he'd bought after graduating from Holy Cross. He enjoyed his status quo, just like me. It all started when he approached me in the cafeteria to tell me he liked my writing, specifically my stories about nightlife and things to do around the city. "I'm Patrick, from the advertising department," he said with a big smile. "I liked your story the other day." He was blonde with broad shoulders and looked like the kind of guy who had masculine nicknames in high school, like Champ or Kicker. After a few more inevitable run-ins around the building, we started to email. Then we traded phone numbers and began texting. Months later, we shared our first meal outside of work. It took us even more months to admit that our regular dinners, most of which were at the Cheesecake Factory, were probably dates. I began sleeping over, sometimes wearing his oversized Timberwolves t-shirt. I'd never dated the kind of guy who had a Timberwolves t-shirt. I didn't care enough to ask why he was a fan of a team in Minnesota. I didn't even know what sport the Timberwolves played, but I was happy to wear the uniform. I fell hard for Patrick and adored all of the ways he was 100% himself, and my opposite. He refused to try new foods, loved the Pogues, and liked to vacation in places like Las Vegas. When bad things happened, he'd spit out one of his many catchphrases. "Sucks to suck." People at work were shocked to find out we were dating. Patrick, who was beloved at the Globe, was Catholic, stoic, and kept a stack of baseball biographies on his nightstand. Whereas I was a Jewish oversharer who slept near a copy of Harry Potter. It didn't matter, though. On nights we were both free, we could be happy together, ordering fast food, my feet in his lap as we watched television. The thing I liked most about our relationship was that it was always about respecting each other's separate routines, as opposed to combining them. I'd text him while he was out at bars with friends, but never expected to come along. I never felt bad going to a party without Patrick, because he never worried about missing out. We could always get together after and talk about the highlights. While other couples I knew took big next steps, Patrick and I stood still. I started to believe that we could maintain our non-committal cable watching for the rest of our lives. That perhaps 2 people who weren't fond of change were meant to stay exactly the same, together. When he broke up with me, a move I hadn't seen coming, he sat me down on his beige Jordan's Furniture couch under his framed 2004 Boston Red Sox World Series championship mementos and said something like, "I just don't see this going anywhere." And I thought, me neither. I didn't want to go anywhere with Patrick. That was the point. But it turned out Patrick was looking for a lot more. He was interested in new experiences and considered his lifestyle to be temporary. He wanted a real partner, maybe a wife. And I wasn't even close to what he imagined for himself. He just hadn't said so. I didn't know where that left me, but I feared the answer was alone. After it was over, something changed in me. I stayed home a lot because I didn't want to hang out with couples. I also avoided single people because they depressed me. I became a mediocre friend. At night, I rewatched every season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer because Buffy had been through worse, and it made me feel like I had a destiny. Sometimes I'd watch the same episode a few times in a row while eating frozen waffles in bed. If I ran into Patrick at work, face to face, my instinct was to bolt before he could talk to me. On rare occasions, though, I'd confront him.